So we're going to go over the level up system or XP system. And I want to pull up the scripts. There's really just two scripts. One is in here called entity component. And then there's the level config. Those are the two things. So I want to share this with you so you can pause and copy whatever you want to do. But the main, I want to give a shout out to Lawless Games. So this guy, he goes in depth on these RPG systems, doing a level system and even a class system later on. And as you can tell, I was kind of following it, but and there's a reason why I'm doing this and showing it because you can get into this mode of thinking of just copying someone and then saying, okay, I'm going to modify it later and I'm going to learn from this. And that's one way to do it. It's just not the best. What you want to do when you're making games, you want to figure out, okay, what is the minimum viable product? What is the MVP? And what is the MVP for each mechanic? Because oftentimes when I know that you guys want to do an MMO RPG or you have this great 20-year project almost in your head, but you need to learn a lot. It's crucial to first cut down the scope of your project to make sure that you can do it. You can still do small bites of the bigger project. So let's say you want a huge MMO RPG. First, you got to learn how to do a single player game and learn how to make a game from beginning to end. If you want to do it in mobile, to do it in mobile. If you want to do it in Steam, PC, or in VR, or whatever it is, the platform, you got to learn how to build for that platform. Figure out just like a month-long game, something that takes you a month or even a day of doing. You can grab a template, learn how to export it and build it to your device, and then tweak it, start playing with it and learn. The main thing is that you learn how to build games and then make a game and publish it to itch.io or something. And so the same applies with these scripts. So like I showed you, I'm gonna give you the link to this guy. He's really good, dives deep into it, but there's a lot in there that you don't need for your prototype. So I'm gonna show you how I'm using what I've learned because I've done a XP system before, and I looked to him to see to look for other ways of doing the same thing. And one thing that was common in what I've done before and what he did with the XP system is that you use scriptable objects when you can, where you have data that's static or that's data that you just need configurations. So this is the first part I want to show you is the level config. Super simple, but this is how you determine how much experience you need at each level, and it's set and it's done. Super simple. All you're gonna do is, hey, get the required experience. And the only thing that might change is if you, instead of getting the required experience, if you do something like int get experience required for next level. So the difference between this one and this setup would be that someone gives you a level and you would do like int next level, right? Because you want to figure out level +1, right? And then instead of doing this, if next level is greater than, and then in here you would do next level. Okay. And then let me go down. So this is the formula. Super straightforward. Well, not super straightforward, sorry. You do an inverse to make sure you're like, okay, from 0 to 100, where am I going to grab that number? Where's the next level? I'm going to pick a value from 0 to 1 that matches that. So it's from 0 to 1, and it's going to use this animation curve. So I'm going to show you right now what it looks like. We have this level config here, and this is a scriptable object. And what I've done is I took basically the Pokemon formula in one way or another. There's different formulas depending on the Pokemon and stuff, but for the most part, you have a exponential curve. Easy at the beginning, takes longer. So it's gonna follow this curve from 0 to 100. After 100, I'm gonna cap it at the max and say it's static after that. You just need 29,000 XP from 101 or from 100 all the way to the maximum. And the maximum is infinite up to the max int number value, which is huge. So a player could play my game for years. And that's one of the things that I want to do that's different is not cap the level and try to figure out how to balance my game and letting someone that, because I want to benefit. One thing is the player playing and so how long they've been playing and skill on top of money. Yes, you can pay your way to be better or to catch up if you come late or if you just want to speed up. But if someone plays the game for 20 years, it will be so much ahead of a player that comes day one. And I want to reward loyalty or just that this person played the game forever. And so I'm going to make the game enjoyable even after level 100, after endgame. But the main part of the game will be between 0 and 100, so that way it has a nice learning curve. So that's my game design aspect with this. And we are just starting, right? That has nothing to do with strength, mana. It's just XP and level. You can use this for any mechanic that requires either achievements or leveling up. You don't need to have an RPG. You might have like Candy Crush, all these games where you have stamina or anything. You can create achievements or a level up system to reward players for playing your game. Period. And so I didn't want to make it this RPG value. I wanted to start from again an MVP. What is the minimum that I need to test XP? And like you saw in the previous video, I had where you could kill the monsters and be able to level up. And right now, I'm not saving this in any database or locally because I'm testing the mechanics first. Okay. So in here, we have that. And then we have the entity. And the entity is basically the UI. I have the UI in here. And then these are the variables. And you saw the UI working. And it's pretty straightforward. As you can see, I was diving deeper into the video where he talks about the character class and the stats container, which eventually I'll do something like that, but it's not going to be like this. So my main concern is that a lot of people watch YouTube videos just to copy, and that can get you in trouble real fast. And so you want to figure out, okay, I need to learn something, and I need the bare minimum because you need to move on, learn what you need to learn, and have something so you can play test. And that's what I did. Is I was like, I don't need the stats container. I don't need the level up stats to get all this stuff that he was doing in his video. And that's why I'm doing this video, because I want to make sure that you are saving time, because you might be working another job and you're doing game dev as a hobby, or you're you just have a lot of things to do, or maybe you don't, but still you need to try to save cost wherever you can. And this is one area where you can save cost. I know that most people love to get into the like nitty gritty of RPG mechanics, like leveling up and having cool stuff. And like you saw, my game is a wizard game. And I could be spending hours building magic spells that are fun. But I have to, anytime I have an idea, I write it down and I continue to work on the things that I'm working on. Because I need to keep it simple. Okay, so that's my first thing and this is all it does at the start of the game. It calculates the experience because it's everything 0, and it tells me, okay, the next level. So you notice that this is getting your required XP, and I'm doing the level +1 here. So it's up to you where you either have it here, but make sure that the function matches what you're doing, right? So the name, right? Get XP required for next level, get required XP, and you give it the exact level. I could even say next level to make sure that when the players are, and I could do like a tip, or so when people hover over, they can say what it needs. But when I go here, I see next level. So those are good tips when you're working with somebody else, is to make sure the naming conventions and know what you're doing, because +1 is super simple and easy to say, but there's so many places where indexes are shifted and then you get nulls because you're like in the wrong index. And so it's very important to make these variables clear. This is pretty straightforward. I have this pop-up because you leveled up, you are now level, and I do it for 2 seconds. We talked about the pop-up manager before. That's why I did these two scripts before uploading the videos, because I needed both of them, because the pop-up manager helps me understand what's going on in the game, and I'm going to be using it from the rest of the games, even with errors. But this is nice because now I can interact with the player, I can figure things out. And the next thing that I'm going to do is work on the progression system and start figuring out the demo version of this game and trying to say, okay, like where you start, where you keep going, and how you progress through, and making sure those things are balanced. Because right now I notice that the spawning mechanic is too much, is too frequent. So it's like, how can I improve the spawning mechanic? And then I'm going to go back and make sure it works multiplayer, and then debug all the issues that will arise from multiplayer games. But this is it. And just having this little bit of code with XP goes a long way. And that's why I wanted to talk about that, is because it's all pretty straightforward. Get the required XP, update the UI. And then this is a function that I want to talk a little bit about what's going on how do we increase the XP? How do we know that the player is gaining XP? You saw me killing monsters in the previous video, and you're like, okay, so the monsters are telling me. So how does the monster tell the player that they've leveled up? So if we go to, I think it's Flying Eye. The Flying Eye. Oh, whoops. Flying Eye here. And I'm going to be brief on this, but I'm going to also link below the specific video where I go over these event channels. So this is a scriptable. I love these because it saves you so much time. But what happens is in here, each enemy I can tell it that this enemy will give you 100 XP or 1,000. And I could also change this to be a random integer between two values. So I could do that too. So I could do a range of values. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to do a base class for enemies. And I'm going to assign a level to the enemy. So that way I can do like level 1 enemies, level 10, level 20 of the enemies. And what I'm going to do is that the AI is going to draw behavior from these level ups, or even like mana or health, movement, speed, maybe attack, like damage. So I'm going to start working on changing the damage. I'll have to do a UI bar, health bar, because these boxes are not going to last. So this was just again, like I'm white boxing. I'm trying to figure things out. I just needed something that would work. I'm going to have to do a bar so that I have more numbers to work with and I can be more dynamic. So that's the next step. And I am going to use some of the RPG mechanics that in that link. But I want to make sure I'm going to give you a link to the Marble Snap video where I go over specifically these event channels. And if you're having trouble, I have a community to help you with in-game devs. And there I have all the scripts for anyone that wants the scripts. They can just download the projects that I worked on. And I have most of my stuff in a company asset and then in a VR game. So I have them separated. So there's assets that I constantly reuse. And these event channels are huge. So these event channels are scriptable objects. There's I have a wizard set up that lets me create these here, generate script, create event channels, and it allows me to create anything. Well, create any channel like multiple variables. I don't know, variable channel event. And in here, I can also list how many parameters. So I could have up to 4 different parameters, like a string, an int, and I can pass those around, and then I can create it. Then when I have them, I can also create them in here, events. I have different ones. So I have a string with callback, an int with no callback. So the idea with the callback is that I know that I'm not going to be waiting for something, or I am going to wait for something. So in the scenario with this, the event, and I go over in the video, but I want to briefly talk about how these are so nice because I could either use a singleton, or I can try to figure out get the reference or find the player and give them XP. Or so this, what it does is signals an event, and then another scriptable object is listening for that event type. So what's going to happen is, see, we have this channel XP reward, and anytime that I need to listen to what a player reward for event for XP, I can tie to this. So for example, this guy is sending the signal. Here, it's a function. So we have in here, we have the reference. And here we raise the event and we give it the reward. So again, that reward value that we have goes through this channel. And so anytime, sorry, I was a little bit quick, but let me show you again. So when the health is a damageable type, again, I had this before. I think I showed it before, this damageable class. Again, this is all roadblocks in order, foundation, right? I created a damageable health system, an enemy base, and it'll, if I didn't have a damageable, I couldn't kill these monsters. And if I can't kill these monsters, I can't gain XP. So I can use this to reward health. What's happening is this is triggering, going to the script and raising the event. And so I don't have to look for the component. I'm just saying, hey, this monster died, give him XP. And this card changes. Okay, and then what I do is in the player rig, I have a listener here that is saying, okay, when this thing triggers, you have a listener. Anytime this thing triggers, it will increase XP by that amount. And here we saw that. And so that's how it communicates. So anytime an enemy dies, it triggers the event, and this listener will increase XP. The cool thing with this is that once I set up the multiplayer aspect, and I can what I'm gonna do that's I've seen in some games, and sometimes people are like, "Oh wait, that's too OP." But what I want to do is that anytime a monster dies, I can send XP to everyone. I don't have to like ping pong around or figure out. I mean, I could also figure out who killed it, but what I'm gonna do is anyone in the scene that's in, like I'm gonna have fields, multiplayer games, and so if you're killing one dude here and my friend's killing another dude there, or we're killing the same one, it doesn't matter. The XP is gonna go to both people, and I can do that with this event because I can trigger the event on both client and host, or master client, whatever you want to call it, all the players. So if there's 8 players playing together and they're all killing 8 different monsters, they can level up. They can gain XP times 8. Because this, I want to reward multiple players playing co-op, right? And so that's another aspect of the game. And this event channel allows me to do that, which is super cool because I don't have to code anything else. I don't have to go find different objects. It works in single player. It works in multiplayer. I just have to keep track of knowing that this event is being triggered and this other listener is there for it. So super nice. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to like make the code even weirder or do all these like game object.find and then do an RPC call to find the other way. I just, once it dies, it's gonna do an RPC call to everybody, say this monster died, give out XP to everybody, and done. The one thing I might have to do is call the level up on the back end. If I want it to be more precise, like I would have to do self-hosted game or headless server where the server would declare who like that the monster died. Not it was pretty easy to cheat and say, hey, I want to reward the players. But the cool thing about the scriptable object is that it has a reference. It's a scriptable object, and so they would have to. The only thing that's hard is that this function is accessible if someone hacks the game, right? Which is super doable. So anytime you have a public function, you know that you can hack it. So if I wanted to improve this, I would not have the code here. I would have it probably on the back end on on a server or on the back end to give out XP. And then what I would do is say, hey, monster died, go check on your XP. Or I could say when the players are done with the scene or like whatever event, I could say dig up the current level and bring all the like updates, right? So I could make it more robust and protect it. But right now, I don't have to worry about that. I should not. So again, MVP. Try to get the minimum viable product for your game. Don't waste time and focus on the things that you need. What does your game need? Take out anything that's extra that you don't need. And if you need these scripts, again, I have a community, and my goal is to help you finish your games. So if you have questions, concerns, or if I'm missing something in these videos that you want answers to, comment below so that we can talk about it. I'm willing to talk about anything, any game related anything that helps you finish your game, because I'm confident in my skills to make games. I have a Marble Snap playlist. I replicated that game. I could do multiple games, but I don't know what the community needs or wants. So for now, I'm just showing what I'm doing with my games and in my process to document how to start from scratch and level up and improve your game.